Thousands, hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants, many of them prisoners. They're taking up your health care. They're taking up your space in schools. They're taking up your hospital.
Welcome to Watch Mojo. And today we're breaking down some of the most unsettling comparisons that can be made between the respective reigns of U.S. President Donald Trump and German Führer Adolf Hitler.
This is the will of God. Now it is obvious why I think it is my duty to the nation to save the German people from the danger of communism.
A dramatic return to power after political exile.
Joe Biden has won the American presidential election. The BBC projects that he's crossed the threshold of 270 electoral college votes needed with a win in the state of Pennsylvania. He will now become the president in January, pending the outcome of any legal challenges.
As you probably already know, the 2020 United States presidential election didn't exactly go President Trump's way, and he sort of made a big deal about it. With that in mind, it could be argued that Trump's comeback campaign after 2020 mirrors Hitler's reemergence from the wreckage of the botched beer hall putsch of 1923.
The national revolution has begun. The building is surrounded. No one may leave. Any trouble, you will be shot.
Both capitalized on feelings of mass unrest as well as outsider narratives for a reinvigorating return. Perhaps their most effective tactic was stoking fears about immigration and their country's futures. Donald Trump reclaimed the White House after 4 years of tireless campaigning, not entirely unlike how the Austrian artist, otherwise known as Adolf, became chancellor in 1933.
Subsequent to the death of President Hindenburg, the office of Reichspräsident will be combined with that of Reichschancellor. The army has devised an oath of unconditional loyalty to the person of the Führer, to be taken by every officer and soldier of the armed forces.
Failed coups.
What the hell's happening? There are too many of them. Somebody must have betrayed us. What are you doing here? Where's Carr and the others?
Oh, I let them go. Their wives were concerned. Well, that's all right. They gave me their word they would notify the authorities.
Good God!
We mentioned it in our last entry, but let's contextualize the 1923 beer hall putsch a little further and demonstrate how it shares eerie parallels with the January 6th Capitol insurrection. The November March was a failed attempt to take revenge against the incumbent Weimar Republic for signing the Treaty of Versailles some years earlier.
In 1918, we were betrayed by the November criminals, the ones who claimed to be our leaders. They entered the war, signed the Treaty of Versailles, and that was high treason.
It was foiled by the Bavarian state police and ended with 16 deaths, 15 Nazis, 1 civilian. Nearly 100 years later, in 2021, President Trump's 2020 re-election effort was unsuccessful, and he encouraged his followers to storm the Capitol building and put a stop to the certification of the results. Though different in scale and context, both events were test runs for deeper anti-democratic impulses, and the symmetrical nature of their trajectory is yet another sobering coincidence.
I was simply taking back that which was stolen from us 5 years before, namely the right to defend ourselves against the wishes of an incapable parliament.
Dictators and elder statesmen.
So I've decided the best way forward is to pass the torch to a new generation. It's the best way to unite our nation. You know, there is a time and a place for long years of experience in public life. There's also a time and a place for new voices, fresh voices, yes, younger voices.
Germany had Hindenburg. America had Biden. Paul von Hindenburg was the president of Germany from 1925 to 1934, a war hero who had nevertheless lost favor with his people. Backed into a corner, Hindenburg agreed to appoint Hitler as chancellor, and the rest is literally history. Joe Biden, a career politician faced with widely publicized health issues, gave way for Kamala Harris to try and fail decisively to win the presidency in 2024.
Just a few months, the American people will choose the course of America's future. I made my choice. I made my views known. I'd like to thank our great Vice President Kamala Harris. She's experienced, she's tough, she's capable. She's been an incredible partner to me and a leader for our country.
Here's the idea. Hindenburg and Biden were leaders who represented a political crossroads, opening the door to more radical successors with fervent followings. In both cases, such a politician's obvious decline allowed for a tempestuous tyrant to steer the nation to his impulses and desires, despite the potential impact on its citizens.
Great thing about America is here, kings and dictators do not rule, the people do. History is in your hands. The power is in your hands. The idea of America lies in your hands. We just have to keep faith, keep the faith, and remember who we are.
Persecutory tendencies.
Within hours of taking the oath of office, I declared a national emergency on our southern border, and I deployed the U.S. military and Border Patrol to repel the invasion of our country. And what a job they've done.
Let's make one thing clear. Donald Trump is very clearly not Hitler, but his open embracement of white supremacist talking points may foreshadow disturbing things to come. While Trump has strongly denied any claims that accuse him of racism, journalists, authors, and more have been quick to characterize his viewpoints of being poisoned by racist ideals.
New this morning, President Trump's sweeping new travel ban is now in effect. As of midnight, citizens from 12 countries, mostly in Africa and the Middle East, are now barred from entering the United States. And people from 7 other nations now face new travel restrictions. So what is the impact?
Of course, to reiterate, we're nowhere near the level of Nazi Germany's appalling racial policies, which touted the superiority of the so-called Aryan master race and aims to whitewash the world. But Trump's rhetoric targeting Muslims, Latinos, and immigrants has normalized xenophobia and political scapegoating. Consider then how Hitler became synonymous with racism and xenophobia, taking it to an unthinkable final solution by 1942.
Now, an area is constructed that resembles a shower room or a bath. And the subjects are brought in naked, as though for a shower. And outside, stainless steel tanks pump in pure carbon monoxide, which, well, what it does is, well, I have figures.
Disdain for multilateral agreements.
In 1919, as the historic meeting at the Palace of Versailles took place, the victorious Allied governments sent their representatives with one hope in mind, the formation of an organization that would outlaw war from the world and settle all future disputes peacefully and at the conference table.
For the uninitiated, the Treaty of Versailles played a vital role in ending World War I and ushering in an era of peace, albeit a temporary one at that. It imposed heavy sanctions on Germany. These included requiring it to disarm and take full responsibility for the loss and damage wrought by the deadly and destructive war.
Essentially what happened is that you create such an unstable economy and so much animosity between nations that you're just seeding the field of war to rise and grow again.
Seen as a just punishment at the time for Germany's having initiated the conflict, the Treaty of Versailles ultimately satisfied no one and led to the festering resentment that would fuel Adolf Hitler's rise to power. And just as Hitler rejected the Treaty of Versailles, Trump has dismissed NATO, NAFTA, the Paris Accord. Virtually any deal not branded Trump is deemed illegitimate.
I was very much involved in this. When I first got elected at the very beginning, first term, I got hundreds of billions of dollars put into NATO. NATO had no money because they hadn't paid for years. And I said, look, if you don't pay, and we're not going to be a part of NATO, we're not going to protect, we're not going to do what we're supposed to do. And
leveraging economic instability for political gain.
Less than an hour ago, the Labor Department released new numbers showing the Consumer Price Index, that basically follows inflation, it spiked to 4.2% compared to where we were a year ago. That is the biggest jump we have seen since 2008.
In the wake of World War I, Germany's hyperinflation created the necessary conditions for extremist sentiment to bubble up. Similarly, in the post-COVID United States, the crushing weight of the 2021 to 23 inflation surge and its associated economic stress helped re-energize American nationalism.
We're going to make it the best it's ever been. We can do that. If we had to wait longer, I don't know. It was going bad, and it was going bad fast. We're going to have to seal up those borders, and we're going to have to let people come into our country. We want people to come back in, but we have to let them come back in, but they have to come in legally.
Of course, both nations suffered extensive periods of high inflation. In Germany, the Reichsmark had become worthless, only serving to stoke unrest amongst the German electorate. Meanwhile, in the present day, Trump can blame COVID or the Biden administration. But some of his own policies to curtail immigration, which have been decried by detractors as draconian and persecutory, are having a clear and deleterious effect on American job supply.
Our farmers are being hurt badly by, they have very good workers. They've worked for them for 20 years. They're not citizens, but they've turned out to be, great. And we're going to have to do something about that. We can't take farmers and take all their people and send them back because they don't have maybe what they're supposed to have, maybe not.
Employment of propaganda and fake news.
With an able assist from an astute student of human psychology, Dr. Joseph Goebbels, all resistance for his grab for power faded away. By 1933, Adolf Hitler was Germany, and the world watched his noisy machinations with growing fear and anxiety.
Both Adolf Hitler and Donald Trump share the dubious distinction of having mastered the new media of their time to shape public opinion and vilify opposition. Hitler didn't do it all by himself, enlisting the help of his Reich Ministry of Public Enlightenment. Key to the department was Minister Joseph Goebbels, a close confidant of Hitler's, whose weaponization of Germany's radio waves produced compelling propaganda that preached hatred and anti-Semitism, as well as justification for the ongoing war effort.
National Public Radio, or NPR, and 3 of its local stations sued the Trump administration Tuesday over its attempts to deny them congressionally appropriated funds. President Trump signed an executive order on May 1st, which ended federal funding for NPR and the Public Broadcasting Service, or PBS, over what he claims is bias in their programming.
Their respective friend groups.
There was nobody tougher than me with Russia, and yet I got along with Putin. Let me tell you, I got along with him really well. And that's a good thing, not a bad thing. He's got 1,700 nuclear missiles, and so do we. But look, that's a good thing. Getting along is okay. But I got along through strength.
Maybe this shouldn't be at all surprising. When given the chance to denounce the racism on display at the 2017 Unite the Right rally, Trump instead claimed that there were, quote, very fine people on both sides. So it's not exactly shocking that he tends to praise autocrats like Russia's Vladimir Putin, China's Xi Jinping, and Hungary's Viktor Orban, leaders he regards as effective rather than dangerous.
Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president, but when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes.
He frames their despotic traits not as a threat to democracy, but as a model worth emulating. History witnessed something similar in the lead-up to World War II, when Adolf Hitler wrote admiring letters to Italian dictator Benito Mussolini, lauding his leadership and expressing interest in joining forces under an oppressive shared vision.
Without a doubt, he proved an inspiration for Adolf Hitler, whose fascist party in Germany was still in its infancy. Mussolini preferred to snub the Austrian house painter until 1934, when it became apparent that the man with the mustache was soon to become a world power to be reckoned with. Their first meeting in Venice proved to be a historic blending of 2 power-mad men who were forced into a partnership by the enmity of the rest of the world.
Expansionism, conquer or die.
What I'd like to see, Canada become our 51st state. We give them protection, military protection. We don't need them to build our cars. I'd rather see Detroit or South Carolina or any one of our, Tennessee, any one of our states build the cars. They could do it very easily. We don't need them for the cars. We don't need them for lumber.
Once Donald Trump returned to power as the 47th president in 2025, his fascination with territorial expansion was quickly reignited, targeting, oddly enough, Canada and Greenland. In moves that baffled economists, politicians, and laymen alike, Trump floated the idea of annexing Canada as the 51st state and expressed a profound interest in acquiring Greenland from Denmark.
But we've been dealing with Denmark, we've been dealing with Greenland, and we have to do it. We really need it for national security. I think that's why NATO might have to get involved in a way, because we really need Greenland for national security. It's very important. You know, we have a couple of bases on Greenland already, and we have quite a few soldiers, and maybe you'll see more and more soldiers go there. I don't know. What do you think about that, Pete?
While dismissed by some as political theater, these gestures echoed a far darker precedent. Adolf Hitler's 1938 Anschluss, the annexation of Austria that marked the beginning of his quest for a, quote, greater Germany. For both men, expansionist rhetoric wasn't just about geography. It was a tool for stoking nationalism, consolidating power, and projecting dominance beyond their borders.
Cheers are for Chancellor Adolf Hitler, returning to his homeland for the first time in almost 25 years. His first act on entering Austria was to declare void the Treaty of Saint-Germain, which so long prevented the voluntary union of Austria and Germany. Now, for the first time in history, Austria and Germany are one nation.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into settings and switch on your notifications.
The Pandora's box problem.
Yeah, I just spoke to President Trump. One thing, the president was aware of Israel's action before it happened. There were no surprises here. But he gave me a quote. He said, Iran cannot have a nuclear bomb. We're hoping to get back to the negotiating table. We'll see.
June 2025 marked what many are calling a dark turning point for the Trump administration. Amid the chaos of the brief but frightening Israel-Iran war and massive immigration protests erupting in Los Angeles, Trump seized the moment to test out his long-standing push to consolidate executive power. Critics argue that this response to these overlapping crises reflects a dangerous expansion of presidential authority.
This was provoked by the White House. The reason why, we don't know. I posit that maybe we are part of a national experiment to determine how far the federal government can go in reaching in and taking over power from a governor, power from a local jurisdiction.
The historical parallel is hard to ignore. Adolf Hitler used the 1933 Reichstag fire to justify the subsequent Enabling Act, effectively dismantling Germany's democratic institutions. Even if Trump himself avoids war, the forces he's unleashed, conspiracies, militias, erosion of norms, could outlast and outpace him, much like Hitler's early policies spiraled into something far more catastrophic.
As I mentioned before, the Trump administration reached out to a key Middle Eastern ally beforehand to acknowledge this strike was going to happen, but that the U.S. was not involved in the strike, but the goal still to get Iran back to the negotiating table.
What do you think? Do you see the parallels between these two historically significant men? Or are they just not there? Be sure to let us know in the comments below.
It's lucky for the people in Los Angeles and in California that we did what we did. We got it just in time. It's still simmering a little bit.